9 to 10 p.m. Monday night on Liffey Sounds. Mik O'Connell, The World You Don't Know. Mik O'Connell, The World You Don't Know. 9 to 10 p.m. Monday night on Liffey Sounds.
Now, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You're very welcome along to this week's edition of The World You Don't Know. I'm joined in the studio by my good friend Robbie. He's the voice of reason and the voice of sanity on The Odd Show. Good evening, Robert.
Good evening, Michael.
I don't know if I can hear you there, can I? Hold on, talk again. Talk into that mic.
Good evening, Michael.
No, I still can't hear you for some reason. I don't know why. But we'll sort something out now in a second, folks, in relation to Robbie. Yes, I want to give out the text number before we do continue. It's 087 062 7138. That's the text line. 087 062 7138. This is The World You Don't Know on liffeysoundfm.ie. And it is the first show that I've done of... Is it the first show of 2016? I think it might be.
Yeah.
I think it is. Or is it the first show? Or did I...
No, you went last week. No,
I wasn't here last week, but we done one the week before. And
you hear me now?
Not great, no. So I think there's something wrong with Robbie's thing there. Say something there, Robbie.
Can you hear me now?
No. Say something.
Can you hear me now?
No. I don't know if there's something wrong with no. Still can't hear nothing off you. So that means the listeners probably can't hear Robbie for some reason. But we will try and get to the bottom of it now in the next couple of minutes. You can just talk loudly, Robbie, because I think this might just pick you up anyway until I get that one there sorted out. And hopefully we can sort something out. Unfortunately, Jamie, the tech guy, is gone. Could have done with his assistance right now. You know what I mean? But I'll try and sort this out. I'm no expert, but I'll see what I can do. Say something again there.
Good evening.
No, there's nothing happening there. What I'm going to do, folks, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually queue up a song. And I'm going to go in and I will try and sort this out and see what we can do. I'm going to rig up another microphone for Robbie because I don't want them to not be heard, to be honest with you, because we've a lot of good stuff that we want to talk about tonight and bringing a lot of new information to you, the listener. So what I'll do is I'm going to play a song. We say, yeah, this is a good song. This is a great song, actually, sort of apt for what's going on in the world, that if you're not careful, your children will be next. So I'm going to play a little bit of the Manic Street Preachers. I'm going to try and sort out this microphone issue for Robbie because I do want this to work out. And I should be back in about 2 minutes, folks, so hang loose and have a listen to this. Talk to us very shortly. Finished with that little song there. That's the Manic Street Preachers you can hear playing in the background, so I will kill the fader there. Robbie, can you say hello to the listeners?
Hello, listeners.
Coming through loud and clear.
Excellent.
My fault, folks. Press the wrong button. So there you go. Modern technology. Give me a pen and paper anytime, Robert.
That was a good Christmas, wasn't it?
It was a great Christmas, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. It was brilliant. Anyway, folks, we can get the show off now to a good start because Robbie is back with us. His mic is working again now, so it's not broken. That's the main thing. So, Robbie, there is lots going on now. You've got a great article up there. You were telling me about earlier on the phone about this major gas leak over in the United States of methane.
Yeah.
Basically, planet Earth is farting.
Well, yeah, for better words.
No, but that's the best way to look at it.
No, but basically, there's a lot of methane and whatever other gas is being ejected into the air. Now, this has gone on for over a week now, and what's happening is the residents in the area are getting poisoned. They're feeling on their skin, respiratory problems. Children are bleeding from noses. There's people advising not to come in the area, and they're actually saying it's time to evacuate the area. Now, the company responsible for it, I think it's a gas fracking company, and they're playing it down. Oh, it's going to blow over, but it's not. It's still there.
Now, do you think this has something to do with fracking?
Well, we read into the report further down. They're saying it has got everything to do with fracking. Because, where is this gas
now, can you
pumping
explain,
into the ground going to escape,
Can you explain to the listeners what fracking is? Because, there's always someone out there who doesn't know what fracking is. It's okay for us within the alternative media who look at this sort of stuff. We know what fracking is. But can you explain to the listeners what fracking is?
It's basically hydraulic pumping air, water, into the ground and getting into the shale gas. It's basically getting into the pockets to remove the gas. Now, some of the areas are from large mining areas where there was small pockets they couldn't get at. But what they do, they hydraulically inject water and stuff like that.
So they drill a hole down deep into the earth,
yeah,
and then they pump water at a very high pressure down into that hole, basically cracking the earth underneath to release the gas. to get that gas.
Exactly.
Now
and
there's
then they extract it, you know.
and they extract the gas.
But what's left behind is just pure
Toxic water.
toxic, and it's unbelievable. Like, you know, it's ruining the ecosystem. It's getting back into the table water.
But that's what I'm thinking.
You know
Is,
what I mean?
is it getting into the water table, like with the
Yes,
natural
yes,
water
yeah.
table that's underground?
It is, and sure, you know, like you see on the alternative websites and news feeds that, you know, people are monitoring the water in the area, and it's quite bad. Now, even experts has gone on now, you know, conferences, and you've say, you know, it's very alarming, you know, from a
Geopolitical.
point of view.
Or
That
geographical.
it's destroying nature, and it's destroying the culture there, and all the animals that's living there, any habitat or sanctuaries. It's getting destroyed.
They're doing this all over the UK as well.
Contaminated, yeah.
Now there's a huge movement in the UK. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of a guy called Leonor Crane.
Yeah.
And he's quite fairly well known on social media and in all of this the truth movement and stuff like that. He's a well known guy. He's been around quite a while. Now, Leonor Crane is an ex-oil executive. He worked in the oil industry himself till he's seen the dirty side of the business, and he got out of it, and now he's out. Basically, he's a whistleblower. He's telling people this is what the oil companies are really like. This is what they're really up to. And he is one of the biggest opponents of fracking. And he's out there at the forefront protesting,
That's right.
organising talks, organising events and stuff like that to try and wake people up to fracking. And he's worried that this is going to start causing earthquakes. Now, I was reading there the other day an article online, and I think it was Ohio, which would probably record 9 or 10 earthquakes a year. Small ones, little minor ones underground and stuff like
Tremors,
that.
yeah.
Tremors on an annual basis, 9 or 10. California would have hundreds, like, because it's a San Andreas fault and all that, so it's used to getting earthquakes. But Ohio is not. It's like in middle America, cowboy country, where they don't normally
It's
have.
the middle of the plate, so to speak. Yeah.
Exactly, it's the middle of the place, so it wouldn't be affected by major earthquakes. But because of fracking, in the last year alone, Ohio has recorded over 1,000 earthquakes. Over 1,000
Massive.
in the last year, and it's directly been attributed to fracking. This is the danger. You know, and there's a lot of people around the world are getting very, very worried about this fracking. You know, they're running out of gas. So now they're finding any way they can. They're shattering the inside of the earth to try and get their hands on gas.
See, as I know, I've been looking at the States. America has got a lot of gas, you know, and they're a while ago they stopped buying from the Middle East and they start, you know, developing their own, because it was business for the area, business for America. But that's the result. They're destroying the country from taking their own gas out. Now you see, like in movies over the years, you'll always see the wells in America, you know, like in Texas and stuff like that. But this is a new stage, basically.
And that looks quite romantic in itself.
Yeah.
You know, you see these wells and it's,
Like
you
they're
know,
pumping away
they're
and
pumping
all.
away and keeping the economies going. But little do we know, they're literally raping the planet and they're sucking it dry.
Well, they're
And
destroying
I think, like, I don't know if oil is the blood of the planet. I mean, it's oil. It's a lubricant. It's there for a reason.
It doesn't come from the dinosaurs.
No, I don't believe that. For some
That's
fossil fuels
rubbish.
probably do. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably do.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. I'm not going to say they do
Yeah.
based on what we were told when we were growing up in school, because I don't believe none of the
textbooks.
education system. It's
Yeah.
all BS, most of it anyway. You know. You know yourself. You go to school to be a repeater. If you like to repeat everything that you're told over the years,
Yeah, you
you're
do
a good
well for
student.
yourself, yeah.
But if you sit up in the class and ask questions, you're being disrupted. Now shut up and sit at the
Yeah.
back. And that's the model all over the world anyway. But getting back to this fracking, this is just.
Well, I think it was last week. The Parliament in the UK actually passed a law for fracking. Now,
To allow fracking.
I only glanced over the story because, you know, yourself, you're looking through. There's so much going on. I just looked, and you know, whoever it was putting it forward, they got a vote. Now it was only probably about 60 to 40, but they passed the vote and they made it legal to frack in the UK now. So that means they can go
Now, is there
anywhere they
anywhere? I
want.
don't know if you've done any research in relation to this country. I know they're robbing all our gas and oil off the coast. I mean, you just have to look at the Shell campaign going on in the west of Ireland. They're, you know, taking all that gas in off the west coast and they're selling it back to us. It's our gas, but that's neither here nor there. If people want to give it away, sure, let them have it. That's what's going on. But do you think is there any fracking going on in this country?
There was talk of fracking going on. I know it has been brought forward, motions to pass bills and all that. I'm not sure exactly where it's at now, but there is stuff on the table, and especially with TTIP coming up. You know, sure, it's only going to happen.
And there's funny you should mention TTIP, because as we mentioned before on the show, one of the primary downsides, for want of a better term, in relation to TTIP, that's the Transatlantic Partnership. It's a trade partnership, a trade agreement. If a big foreign corporation who are involved in fracking want to come into this country to frack, and they've been given a licence, say, by the Irish government, by the Oireachtas, the Crown Oireachtas, the Royal Oireachtas, a corporate licence to come into this country and frack, and then they come up against a load of protesters who halt their operations, basically.
Well, similarly,
under TTIP, these corporations can then sue Ireland as a nation for lost revenue.
They can counteract the suit. Basically, you know, it's in one of the clauses where they have their own judge appointed. I don't know the word for it. There's a certain word, SSID or something like that they call it, but basically they have their own court and their own judges, and then they can squabble it out between them, you know, if it's legal to do it. It's not. Obviously, they're just going to pass it because, you know, they appoint their own judges, so it's a farce straight away. But no, it's a pure scam. You know what I mean? Like, they pass this, they can do what they want on paper. Do you know what I mean? If you meet resistance here, well, then you can go and sue the Irish government, and then Irish government will put pressure on the people of Ireland to stop it, and God knows what they'll do then. Because you see what they've done with the water protest, the lengths they've gone through just to, you know, make an example of somebody because they're protesting about water that should be free. Yeah. So you could imagine now when there's money involved with big companies, you know, from all over the world.
There was reading a report there today. You were talking about the water protests. One of the big names, I suppose, that constantly gets mentioned in the water protests is Mr. Dennis O'Brien.
That's right.
And there was a very interesting story today that I didn't see on RTE for some reason. I mean, I was watching RTE earlier on. The top of the headline on RTE tonight was, I think, an upcoming strike. I think it was a nurses' strike or something like that. And David Bowie passing away. Yeah. And the David Bowie's dominated the headlines all day, as you well know. I'm not trying to take away from David Bowie. I'm a big fan. You know, we've lost a great legend there. But they didn't mention this story, which was in I think it was the Irish Times this morning.
It was in the Guardian as well.
It was in the Guardian. The Guardian ran with the story first, basically saying that he's under investigation by the Criminal Assets Bureau in relation to the ESAT Digiphone licence.
For serious crimes.
Serious crimes. Now, you know, the Criminal Assets Bureau was set up to look into organised crime and the proceeds thereof.
Well, and there's massive money there, you know, so that'll tell you the whole ESAT thing and the Lowry business. Yeah. So hopefully now, you know, it might turn around, but allegedly they cannot use the information from the Moriarty Tribunal. If they start this case up, they have to go and they have to get new information, as in they can't go through the old stuff and represent that. This is part of the investigation from
CAB. They can't do it retroactively, which is a shame, to be honest with you.
Exactly, because it's all there. Yeah. So how much did it cost? 160 million for that tribunal over 10 years.
Yeah, waste of money.
And then there you go. You can't even go and touch it. And then you said bury it for 30 years.
But that's like a criminal organisation just launching an investigation into themselves, getting the victims to pay for it, and then saying, we're not going to tell you what happened for another 30 years.
So what did he have over the courts? What did he call it over the courts? The courts of criminal justice.
The criminal courts of justice,
courts of justice.
I've always wondered about that.
No matter where you put it, it's still the court for criminal justice.
Yeah, and it's the justice that is criminal, you know, and it is as well. We're going to go to a break down the next minute or so. I'm actually going to go to a break now. And when we come back, there's a good few things we want to talk about. Now, we will get back to this little gas thing over in America because the earth is full of methane, Robbie, as you well know. And if this fracking is causing this methane to come up, the thing about methane gas, ladies and gentlemen, is when it goes up into the atmosphere, it will...
It's heavier than air.
Yes, and it will push down, and the air will be above that. And all we'll have then is fart to breathe in. Won't be nice, folks. People like been stuck in the lift for the rest of your life.
YouTube on the break, you know, and probably get the speed up.
Well, but what we'll do, folks, is we'll go to an ad break and be back to you in 2 minutes. Talk to you very shortly.
Listen online now at liffysoundfm.ie.
Shaggy, Liffy Sound.
Now, folks, you're very welcome back. Text line number 087 062 7138. If anyone wants to text in complaining or wishing us a happy new year or whatever, or donate $1 million out of your lottery winnings, stuff like that. And in relation to lottery winnings, folks, I'm someone who does the lotto quite frequently.
Have you seen it, have you?
I have. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this because it's we can keep it light-hearted anyway for tonight, you know.
I popped it during the week and I said, no way.
Yeah. Now, you're probably wondering what we're talking about, folks. We're going to tell you what we're talking about, right? Seen a video the other day on YouTube, and it's sort of, I've always thought a lot was rigged anyway, do you know what I mean? To some degree, you know, all these gambling things usually are rigged. You know, the slot machines in Vegas are rigged. They're not going to pay.
The house always wins, Mick.
House always wins, yeah, exactly. Now, and I want to talk about the American lottery now in a minute as well, folks, because that's heading for $1 billion, first time in history. But in relation to the lottery, this was an American video, and this guy, it was well spotted, and he recorded it and put it up on YouTube. Basically, there was a lottery draw in the United States. I don't know when it was. It was recently anyway, I think.
Of last year.
Was it the middle of last year? Okay.
Around the August. Yeah.
It was quite recent anyway. It wasn't many years ago. It was quite recent. And basically what happened, folks, was pretty much like our own lotto. You've got the lotto ball machine, and it's spinning away on television, and the balls are coming out one by one. Say the number 7 comes out, grand. Number 3 comes out, grand. Next thing, the number 21 pops up on the screen, and another ball came out, and then another ball came out, and then the number 21 ball came out. Now, that's not rigged. I don't know what it is.
No, that was the Powerball. It came out 30 seconds before.
It was actually, it was up on the screen.
Yeah.
The number was up on the screen. Or either that or the ball was out first.
No, the ball come out. You seen it come out the top of the ball, the globe, and down to the side, which would be the left looking at it.
Yeah.
And then the number appears on the screen.
On the screen.
But then the woman that's doing the draw is standing there going, okay.
What do we do now? Yeah, she was
you
panicking.
could see her kind of swallowing her own tongue, going, right, how do I bury this?
But I think what I'm correct in saying now, and I could be wrong, but I think I'm correct in saying that the number actually appeared on the screen long before, 30 seconds before that ball was even selected by the machine.
That's right.
So that tells you it was rigged.
Yeah.
No,
there's a 30-second delay on one of the ends.
Yeah.
But it was copped, and it's doing the rounds.
Now, a guy put up an interesting post today, right? I seen it on Facebook, and I found it very interesting. The rollover in America has been going since November on the biggest lottery over there, and it went unclaimed after Saturday night's draw, and it was something like $650 million, something like that. Now, because of the interest in this draw, everybody is going to want to do it in America. So they expect the next draw to balloon, the jackpot to balloon, all the way up to $1.3 to $1.4 billion. Billion. So one person could win that and become a billionaire overnight. And he could join the elites and the Illuminati and all the rest of it. But anyway, a guy put a post up today, and he done a little bit of maths. It says, population of America, 300 million. Lottery jackpot, 1.4 billion. There's enough money there to give every single American $4 million each. Thus eradicating poverty. Yeah. Just with that one jackpot alone.
That's his calculations. That's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Like, you can imagine that's it. You know, walk away. Just give it out, walk away.
But this guy in America, if you were in America tomorrow, Robbie, and you won that jackpot just by chance, you were in Florida on a holiday and you bought a ticket, and you won that 1.3 billion, you could solve poverty in America overnight by just giving everybody.
Well, you could give them all that there was
3 million each.
Well, the government wouldn't be too happy.
I mean, a billion is 1,000. A billion is 1,000 million.
Yeah.
So if you've got 1,000 million and a population of 300 million, well, theoretically speaking, you could give them all 3.3 million each.
Yeah.
Eradicating poverty in the United States forever.
Yeah. Well, that's the figure accounted for on the consensus.
But what I'm saying is, look at what they spend on war.
You're not going to get into it.
No, it's not that I want to get into it.
But, no, it sickens me the money they spend.
It sickens me to the core. But
even here, the money they spend on something stupid where they could be putting it in somewhere useful. You know, it's.
Well, Simon Coveney wants to buy some new jets for the Air Force, proper fighter jets, we need the bloody
down
things.
payment on the 3 ships he wants as well.
Yeah, the gas thing is they're never going to use these things, and yet they'll spend millions on an annual basis upgrading them and maintaining them.
And they had them ships now and them jets. Remember them massive super trawlers that was in a couple of weeks ago?
They could have gone in and blown the shit out of them.
But they wouldn't. Bet you just blah 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 and just.
Well, that's not our fish anymore. Anyway, that fish was given away to Europe anyway. So.
And back in the what was it, the 70s,
70s or something? Yeah,
that was
70s,
the
80s.
first thing they went for was the fisheries, because it's worth 1 billion to the Irish every year, you know, but it's worth something like 3 billion to Europe.
Now, you saying that it's worth 1.3 billion just that fish alone, right? To the Irish.
Yeah.
Now we're a nation that's in austerity at the moment. There's people living on the streets. There's families living in sheltered accommodation. There's people up to their necks
Dire Straits, yeah.
in dire straits because of mortgage difficulties, and you've got the banks and the courts evicting people out of homes day in, day out on behalf of the banks. We actually bail out. But $1 billion, $1 billion could make everybody in this country very, very wealthy overnight. Just $1 billion.
You could house everybody. You could give you a car. You could give you a start. Do you know what I mean? A few quid in your pocket, and then you can go on with your life. Do you know what I mean? It'd be kind of a reset, wouldn't it? Everyone could get on with their life.
Yeah.
But no, they wouldn't give you. So there you go. So much of they handle to Troika every year.
I don't know how much they're giving them, but it's...
But they're giving them back something like 3 or 4 million or billion a year.
Well, it's in the billions, yeah. It is in the billions.
Because you know yourself when you say, we have to cut the taxes this year, we have to save, say, 3 billion. And it's going up every year by 1 or 2 billion. So they must be handling at least 6 or 7 billion now.
I don't know what the figures are now, to be honest with you, but it is in the billions.
How much do we owe them? 60 odd billion, is it? And that's over.
It was a lot more than that now, you know.
Yeah, well, it's over 20 odd years or 40 odd years, you know what I mean? So, do the maths. So it works out between probably 5 and 7 billion a year.
But I've seen a great post there not so long ago on Facebook, and I'm sure you've seen it yourself before, you know, it's all over social media. And it says the world is 156 or 166 trillion dollars in debt. To who?
Snap.
Who is the world in debt to?
Yeah.
Is there a planet somewhere else like that says, hey, you owe us?
Yeah.
Who are we in debt to? And why is it that we're the only species of life on this planet that has to actually pay to live on the bloody thing?
That's it.
This is the kind of world we live in. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a spell. It's a spell. You know,
it is a spell. It is a spell. Now, again, talking about spells, I was listening on the way up to Alan's show from last night on OYM.
Oh, listen, that was a good show, yeah.
Well, Alex Collier was on it last night. No, I haven't finished listening to it. I listened to the other half now later on. But I was listening to the first half, and Al was asking the great question. He was asking about this great awakening.
Yeah.
That we've discussed this plenty of times on the show before, you know. And he was saying like that years ago, there wasn't that many people, but it's grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. And his question was, have we reached the stage where, and his question was to Alex, was, have we reached the stage that the New World Order, the cabal, call them what you bloody want, give them any name you want, have they reached the stage where there's nothing we can do now? It's gone over the precipice. You know, we're goosed. Do you know what I mean? We're going to go marching headlong into this New World Order whether we like it or not. Or have we reached the stage where it's literally falling apart on them? What do you think?
Well, as far as I've been listening to shows like that, and I've been listening to that kind of, sometimes you think it's a little bit far-fetched, some of the topics, but it is all relevant because it's all down to, your mind. If your mind is free, it'll help you educate people.
Well, this is what I love about Alan and Steve's show. It is far-fetched on some occasions, like they'd be talking about aliens and UFOs and interdimensional beings and stuff like that. And my argument is, you get some people to say, because David Icke comes up for a lot of stick for some of his theories and stuff like that about lizards and stuff. And my answer to that all the bloody time is this. Unless you have absolute, documented, verifiable proof that what they're saying is bullshit, well then you've got no reason to either believe nor disbelieve them. You just can't rule it out. You've got to go and look at their information with an open mind until you learn or you are proven otherwise. It's as simple as that.
Well, what I got from last night, and I've heard it a few times, is that at the end of the day, as a species, a human species here, apparently we have to give a consent. Do you know what I mean? For us to be totally enslaved, which is the goal for these elites, And I won't get into the whole back nine of the story of the elites, but we have to give a consent for them to take us, fully and fully enslave us. And as far as I'm aware, there is enough people on the planet at the moment aware of what's going on, and it is growing. And I think it's kind of speeded up in 2009. Is where there was a bit of impact because after the big crash, people started feeling down and didn't know work, but they started investigating what was going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
I think that's exactly. I think you've hit the nail on the head there.
The 9/11, people said no, this is not right, and then 2008. Do you know what I mean? 7 years later, which is part of the Smeda.
Yeah.
They start saying, well, something's wrong here.
Yeah, is this just a bloody coincidence or is there actually something going on?
Banking crisis, do you know what I mean? It was a whole setup. So I think that pushed people forward. And now, it's spreading.
I think what pushed people forward in this country is the whole issue about the water. I think that woke an awful lot of people up. I've spoken to other radio presenters like Ray Hall from People's Internet Radio and Sean McGuire, and they're all of that opinion that it was the water that really woke this nation up.
It did.
Do you know what I mean?
But I'm just prior to that, on a global kind of scale,
Well, on a global scale, yeah, people were waking up long before the water issues sprang to mind in this country. But in this country, people like ourselves, people like the wonderful Sean McGuire who does his show over on People's Internet Radio, Ray Hall who does his, Vin Bunn who does his, anybody who does shows like this anywhere, it doesn't matter, Alan and Steve and OYM, they will all tell you, prior to the big water issue, shows like what we were doing were just quirky little conspiracy theory shows. Yeah. We had an audience, but it was a very niche audience. We had an audience of other truthers. who would be researching the kind of stuff that we look at. So, you know, I'm not going to go and listen to an hour of Britney Bloody Spears on, Jelly Baby FM. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to listen to that crap. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to go and I'm going to listen to People's Internet Radio, the Unexplained.tv.
Stuff that you don't hear.
Yeah, the alternative media. You know, the Richie Allen show in the UK, which is a great show. Another Irish guy from Waterford doing a great show over in the UK. And there's lots and lots of great shows out there, and they're the only kind of shows that I have any interest in whatsoever and listen to. And as I says, the kind of people who would listen to our type of shows are people who are like-minded. Now, you've got Joe Soap on the bloody street now is getting interested in the alternative media because they're watching the mainstream media and they can see stuff like Charlie Hebdo, and you just need someone to point out one thing to them, like, look at that bullet didn't actually hit that guy's head. Yeah. Where's the blood? And that's it. You know, you don't have to tell them anything else after that. Yeah. They look at that and say, what?
Drop a seat.
WTF, I don't want to use any profanities on air in case there's any little children listening. But that's what happens to people. They say, oh no, hang on a minute. Yeah, right, there is something bogey going on there. And then you just leave them. Just plant that little seed. As Steve and Alan always say, you know, they're like gardeners. They just plant little seeds and off they go. Do you know what I mean? And that's all you can do, I suppose.
But that's it, because you'll ruin it for yourself and you'll ruin it for them if you get into it too deep.
Well, I did in the early days. I used to be, I was like the guy at the end of the street with the sandwich board saying, the end of the world is nigh. Come listen to me. If you don't, you're all doomed.
But you know what I mean? You have a bit of a mad one, you know what I mean? When you learn, you go, holy shit, what's going on?
It is a holy shit moment, and it really is. Your brain just literally explodes. And you've got all this information coming at you. Yeah. You know, and it's the universe that's sending you this information in your direction.
Well, that's it.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a positive energy. Yeah.
Thing said that day last night. Now, well, tonight I heard it, but he said it obviously on last night's show. I think it was Steve who might have said it, or it could have been Alan. But he was saying that anyone who's into this, that's getting information coming towards them, that's looking for the information or stumbling across the information, the universe, he reckons. I don't know if it was him. If it was any of the boys or Alice Collier said it, I just heard it earlier on the way up in the car. But basically what they were saying was that the universe knows who it wants to channel this information through. Like David Icke would have been picked 30 years ago.
It's like a network. It's like a network cable. You have a server.
Like, no, but I think the premise of what he was saying was, we go around knocking on doors telling people, like, you know, look at this shit that's going on. They're spraying chemicals in the air and there's poison in the food and fluoride in the water.
The door in your face.
Yeah, exactly. And he says, that basically what they were saying is, them people are not designed to know. Yeah. It's not. The information is not for them. Do you know what I mean? It is not for them. The information is only meant for who the information is meant for.
Selected group.
Do you know? It's not even about a selected group.
No, like, you know what I mean? Like, there is a selected group, you know, that will take that information.
Like, if you want to buy into that concept that we're tuned into the universe, that everybody's tuned in, and I do buy into that. Like, we're all part of the universe.
It's just how we're tuned in, you know.
And but that's it, yeah. And those of us who do what we do, these radio shows, and even that, Al was saying it earlier on, and it was a great thing. It resonated with me what he said. He says he gets moments or times where he says, that's it, I've had enough. Do you know what I mean? I'm banging my head out of a brick wall. It's like he gets writer's block.
It's frustrating.
It's writer's block he gets, like a mental block. It's I can't go any further now. Yeah. And then a wave of energy just comes out of nowhere and pushes them down a different direction. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And off they go again. Do you know what I mean? And it's like that for me as well, because I get times where I can't be asked to do a show this week. Do you know what I mean?
You have to look at this.
Like, what am I going to talk about?
There's so much going on out there, right? You might look into something and you might get a bit peed off it, you know what I mean? And you take a step back, but something else pops in. And you know yourself, when you're looking at all these different subjects, you know, it all is linked together. So you're going back into it, but you're going back in with a new head on you because you've seen something new. Now, it can be captivating, you can get lost in it, you know, which is the main thing, not to get too lost. If you're into something, you know, study, keep on the one subject, kind of master it before you go on to something else. Don't keep skipping and hopping too much because you get lost. You know, try to understand what you're looking at.
But isn't that the nature of the rabbit hole?
Yeah, well, it drags you.
Do you know, well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not the nature of the rabbit hole. Like you say, like, get a grip on it and don't get lost. Personally, I think for anybody getting into it fresh, who has lived in the paradigm of the world is the way the mainstream media tells me it is, and I believe everything the mainstream media tells me. When you break out of that paradigm,
from watching RTA to the stupid late shows and all that gobbledygook that goes on, you know what I mean? If you do kind of get a bit of an awakening, you know, tune in, have a look and some light stuff.
But your advice is to be like, don't get too heavy into it, because you'll end up going off the
because you still have your life to live, and it can draw you in.
And that did happen. That happened to me, and it genuinely did happen to me when I had my awakening, you know, if you want to call it that. And I'm going back 15 years ago, even longer than that, you know what I mean? I was at a point where I was, you know, just peddling along in life, and then all of a sudden I said to myself, hang on a minute. Do you know what I mean? I got this aha moment, and I knew. It was something I'd always got, like, it was always there. But I got to a stage where I started to look at everything around me and ask myself questions then, you know, do I believe what I've been told all my life about this institution, like, say, the church or whatever it is? Do you know what I mean? You see stuff coming out about, you know, the abuse in the church and stuff like that, and then it just blew it wide open for me then. I said, hang on a minute, the whole bloody system is a lie. What's going on here? You know what I mean? And the first chance I got when I got the internet, I remember back in 1995, I started working in a place not too far from here in Ballyfermot in a furniture factory, sanding furniture and spray painting furniture. And there was a guy that worked with me called Graham. Don't know what became of him now, but he was one of the first people I knew to ever have internet. Do you know what I mean? Nobody was really talking about it. Yeah, we heard this concept, the internet, but it was for nerds, you know what I mean? Computers weren't really that popular. People were still, you know, playing around with Commodore 64s at that stage, you know what I mean? And the new Sega Mega Drive or whatever was the latest console. And he came into the place one day and he had these printouts of this website which has long been banned called jollyroger.com.
Oh, yeah.
And it was how to make bombs and it was all mad stuff on it, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I said to him, so where'd you get that? On the internet. I said, what? Explain to me what this internet thing is. Yeah. So he told me it's a place like a library, it's just full of information.
Information superhighway.
There's nothing you can't find out in it. And it was then I said, Jesus, I need to get myself this internet thing, do you know what I mean? But another 4 or 5 years had gone by after that, before I actually got online. So it was around 2001, just after 9/11. That's when I got online then. And there wasn't even anything about 9/11 online at that stage. It was around 2004, 2005 before stuff started appearing about 9/11. And I wasn't even questioning 9/11. As far as I was concerned, it was the Arabs, like it was Bin Laden and thought like everybody else. I wasn't thinking about... I was thinking of how audacious it was, like, and I was always wondering how the bleeding hell did they pull that off? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there was a few questions, but not... This was an inside job, like, it had nothing to do with Bin Laden. This was like criminal factions within the American system did this, and this is the reason they're doing it, because they want to bring in a new world order and they want to have a war on terror and enslave everybody on the planet. And 15 years later, that's exactly what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, once I got the internet, my head literally exploded, and I went down that path, down that rabbit hole, and it was a very treacherous journey. It really was at the time, because I lost an awful lot of friends, family, people that want that to do with me now. Do you know what I mean? Which is fair enough. I'm not gonna...
Well, you know the true you now and who your friends are, you know?
Well, that's true as well, yeah. But I'm saying you have to make a great sacrifice. You really do. And like you said earlier on, this is why I'm going back to what you said earlier on, that for anybody fresh getting into this now, be very, very bloody careful. Because if you do dive down that rabbit hole too fast, it's going to cost you dearly. And if you're not prepared to pay a price, don't go down that rabbit hole.
It mess your head up, because like you go on, you have friends online, and everyone always comes up now and again and you say, well, this is what's happened to me. You know, I've lost touch with a family member, or I haven't spoken to someone in years because of my argument against theirs. And you know what I mean? They're trying to not awaken them, but trying to see the balance. You know, where's the balance gone wrong? This is what I believe in. This is what you think. What's going on? You know, and like I said, you can lose friends or family along the way. But like I said, if you are getting into it, just pick something. Pick it light. Start off in it. And if you feel a bit of resistance from anyone around like that, okay, fair enough. Don't tell them. Do it on your own. Yeah. And then when you feel a bit confident, then you can introduce it, because you know what you're talking about.
You do need to know what you're talking about, because I noticed that now in the early days of me getting into all this alternative information, if you want to call it that, I felt it like necessary to tell other people. Do you know what I mean? And there were other members of my family who I did tell, and I'm not going to mention any names, but one or two of them jumped into that rabbit hole. And then when you have the conversation with them, they're just spewing a lot of bullshit. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because there is a lot of bullshit there.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So you do need to be very careful. Anyway, folks, I have to go to a break. I just want to give a quick shout out. My nephew, Brenna, I don't know if he's listening. I was talking to him the other day, he said he'd try and tune in. So if you are, happy days for tuning in. And the text line, folks, is 087 062 7138. 087 062 7138. I'm going to go to some ads. I'm going to come back then. I want to talk just a little small bit about the powerful documentary that's doing the rounds on Netflix called Mik and Robbie. I know I've watched all 10 episodes of it, and shocked is an understatement to say the least. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to talk too much because I don't want to give anything away. And I know Robbie in the studio hasn't seen it yet. He's only seen the first episode. So I'll be back in 2 minutes, folks, and we'll take it from there. Talk to you very shortly.
On 96.4 Community Radio at its best. Liffey Sound FM.
Now, folks, you're very welcome back. Now, just before the break there, I mentioned the wonderful documentary that's on Netflix called Making a Murderer. Now, you obviously haven't seen it yet, Robbie, but I'm just going to give you a little brief outline of what it's about. It's basically about two guys, two cousins. One guy called Stephen Avery and the other guy called Brendan Dassey. Now, in 1985, Stephen Avery was convicted of rape and sentenced to, I think it was 40 or 50 years, wherever I can't remember what the sentence was. It was a big sentence. You know what America's like for sentences. And he'd done 18 years, and then after 18 years, he was exonerated using the latest DNA techniques. And it turns out it wasn't his DNA on the victim, and it wasn't him, and he was set up originally. But anyway, he gets out and decides that I'm going to sue the state for wrongful conviction and taking 18 years of my life. And then, lo and behold, the guys that he is suing, the cops that he's suing who were involved in the case, the original case, end up investigating him for a murder of someone whose car was found on his property and stuff like that. And basically the premise of the documentary is that he was set up, and based on all the evidence that was put forward with this documentary, it certainly looks that way anyway. But it's doing the rounds on social media now. It's become absolutely massive. So if you, I'm hoping, I have mailed some of the family members involved. I mailed them over the weekend and try and get them onto the show. They were on the Richie Allen show last week. Stephen Avery's mother was on the show and a couple of other people. I'm hoping to get one or two of them on this show in the near future if I can. So if you want to go away and watch the documentary, it is on Netflix. It's called Making a Murderer. It's very well worth a watch. It'll open your mind up, it'll open your eyes up to the kind of corruption that can go on within the system. We know all about the corruption in the system, about conspiracy and how easy it is, you know. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon in relation to this documentary, you know, saying, oh, look at this, a big conspiracy. And I think the reason they're trying to bury it in America is because if the average American wakes up to the fact that, yes, the system is corrupt and the system will commit a massive conspiracy on anybody.
It'd be a bit like a 9/11 in that.
Well, it makes 9/11 make a lot more bloody sense then to those who ever have questions about it. You know, if they're willing to do this on a little small scale, they can do anything on any scale, and they do. You know, we've called 9/11 out as an inside job, 7/7 as an inside job, Charlie Hebdo was an inside job, most of these school shootings in America as inside jobs. Do you know what I mean? This is just, to me, it's typical of the system that we live under.
Yeah, but it's not a platform for people to kind of...
But it's been exposed, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
It's not a platform to come forward and for people to kind of turn around and see it for what it is. And it's being put on Netflix, which is worldwide audience, you know.
But what I like most about this documentary, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but the hope I'm getting from it is this. The average Americans are watching this.
Yeah.
And they're going on to Fox News then and saying scumbags, and that's all I'll call it, like Judge Janine, who's just guilty. Like, you know, she's not even looking at the bloody evidence. She's just a face on the television, and they think there's some sort of an authority figure. Like their other gobshite, what's his name? Bill bloody... I can't even think of his second name. He's a horrible man. Anyway, there's no time for truthers, these people, do you know what I mean? But Bill O'Reilly, you know him? Yeah, he's the worst talk show host in America. He does the news over there on Fox. But I think what's going on here is, and the reason that the mainstream media over there are dissing this documentary so much, because the average American who watches this documentary, who has been quote unquote a sheep all their life because they believe in the bullshit from their own government, all this fake crap and terrorism, and they're caught up in all of that shite. Do you know what I mean? If they watch this documentary and they do sit down and realise that yes, a monumental conspiracy is possible, and it's not only possible, but it's been done on a continual basis, not just to Stephen Avery and his cousin Brendan Dassey.
To everything in all walks of life.
Exactly. Yeah. And then when they go then and look at something like 9/11, then they can turn out, oh, hang on a minute.
And then Sandy Hook.
They can do this, they can bloody well do that. And I think...
hundreds of other, you know...
I think this documentary has galvanised people so much to start looking at corrupt police forces, corruption in general, that the whole bloody system's going to come crashing down. Well, very bloody soon, you know.
It's gotten to a stage where people have to kind of find some hope somewhere, and I think, you know, when a seed like this is dropped, especially in the mainstream,
and this is a big seed.
You know what I mean? They will latch onto it,
and they're trying to put a lid on it.
Do you know what I mean?
Really
and they will latch onto it, and like I said, it'll open the flood doors.
I hope it does. I really do hope it does.
Because you know the influence America has in the world.
too much of an influence.
Do you know what I mean?
against
And
me,
if they all turn around and start saying blah 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 blah, the whole world's going to say, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So look at here, the influence. Look at Ireland. They're trying to Americanise it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
But that's what they're trying to do in this country. Yeah,
Do you
they're
know
trying to
what I mean?
corporatise us.
Well-
it's like Grant Morrison says back in 1999 when he gave that speech at the Comic Con in the United States, this Truth Conference thing they did. He says, if we're not bloody careful, and it was a great speech. I'd urge anyone to go onto YouTube and just type in Grant Morrison. He's a Scottish cartoonist, but he done this speech called the Disinfo speech. Very good speech. I think he was off his face when he done the speech on drink and drugs, but that's neither here nor there. It's what he says is very important. You know what I mean? But he basically says he was exposing the elites in his speech. But one of the more outstanding quotes for me was, he says, if we're not bloody careful, and this is, you have to remember, this is what, 16, 17 years ago when he said this. If we're not careful, we're all going to end up living in McDonald's. What he meant was the world is getting corporatised.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And if we're not careful, we'll all end up living in McDonald's. He didn't mean we'd physically be living in a McDonald's restaurant, but we'd be all living under the umbrella of a big corporation.
well, I said this to you before that movie Demolition Man. Remember?
That's
Everyone
exactly the way
eats a
society is
Taco
heading.
Bell.
Yeah, that's where society is heading, and I think it is. You can see it all around it. It really is. Now, I'm gonna move away from the.
Before you go, there's just a lot of talk about the Hunger Games as well. Like I've watched it years ago, the Hunger Games, a good movie. Part 2 come out, watched it. Wait to see the next one. There, it's a Mockingjay.
Mockingjay, yeah.
Now it is kind of, you know.
Do you think it's a blueprint for the New World Order?
21.
Is it written all over it? Yeah.
Yeah, it has.
But most of Hollywood is like that. We know that all the bullshit that comes out of Hollywood.
But
You know.
you look the way it's staged. You know, remember I said to you there the other evening. So the train journey from their little squabble of a town to this massive. You know, it's all about depleting the people out of countryside and having these little
Big city
where they
enclaves,
can- where you can corral everybody.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that.
We leave it at that. Anyway, I'm going to move away from the Stephen Avery story. If you do want to see it, it's on Netflix, folks. It's called Making a Murderer, and I'll tell you now, it'll be the best 10 hours of television you've ever watched. It'll open your mind to the kind of corruption that can go on and does go on. Now, we're just going to move on then. We've got one more subject we want to talk about because it is 10 to, and I intend playing out with a David Bowie song at the end of the show. I've seen an ad lately. See, can you get the ad up there, Robbie, will you?
Yeah.
On YouTube. Now, this is an ad that's been playing over the last few days on Irish television, folks, and it's an Irish company, and it's an ad for sausages. You might say, oh, an ad for sausages, what's so conspiratorial about that? Well, I'll tell you now, it's not conspiratorial, but it's a strange ad. The ad starts out with a basic family. I think you might get it on YouTube, Robbie. If you go onto YouTube and have a look there. So just go into the search bar up top and put YouTube in.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Basically, what the ad is about, folks, is they're selling sausages, but not only are they giving away or selling sausages, with your sausages they're going to give you a RFID tracking chip. Not for you, it's not for you or your child or anything like that, but it's for your children's toys. Now you might say to yourself, oh, that's nothing wrong with that. Now Robbie's going to queue up the ad. I'm going to play the ad for you, folks. That's the best way, because I can't describe it for you, but have a listen to this ad, right, and just let me know what you think, and we'll talk a little bit about it when we come back. Play it away there, Robbie.
Oh, he likes that.
Emily met Teddy at 9 months old. Since then, they've been inseparable.
Emily?
He's not just a cuddly toy, he's part of the family.
Come on, Emily.
Teddy's lost in the 2 words. I have nightmares about... Nightmares.
We all love Teddy. Stupid.
Basically, folks, that was an ad for sausages, Richmond sausages. It's doing the rounds on the television at the moment, and you can see the ad, and there's people crying in the ad, and they're all upset over the Teddy getting lost, and then they find the Teddy, and they find the Teddy thanks to a free tracking chip for your toy, an RFID chip. Now, does anybody not see the bloody sinister undertones to what's going on here?
Well, I'll tell you something. What I see a great marketing ploy there. Basically, the way they portray that is, you know, the Teddy's gone, whole family missing.
The whole family's absolutely...
They treated it like the child was missing, right?
Yeah.
You treat her like the child, even the mother, you know. And
Crying. Absolutely crying.
Even the way the child got emotional there,
Yeah.
you know, when she was trying to sleep. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's Teddy because he had his tracker. Now they're going to put that out there, and then all of a sudden, you know, that's a great idea. Let's
Put
do
it on
to
your
the
children. Exactly.
And that's the mark of the beast.
Now, people might say, you know, be texting in, or, well, no one's texting in, but people might say, after listening to this, that's only an ad, it's only sausages, and it's only a tracking chip
It's
for a
only,
teddy bear. Well, here's where it could go. Now, Aaron Russo, great producer, he's dead now. He made Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. He's Bette Midler's manager. Big guy in Hollywood, you know, back in the day. He done a great documentary with Alex Jones, where he claimed to have had a meeting with one of the Rockefellers, Nicholas Rockefeller. And Nicholas Rockefeller told him, this is all pre 9/11, that there was going to be an event, big event like Pearl Harbor, 9/11. And out of that event, they were going to invade Afghanistan, Iraq, and most of the bloody Middle East, and have this war on terror that can never be won because there is no enemy. You cannot define an enemy. It's a war. It's a war on terror. But the ultimate goal of the banking industry, who's behind all of this New World Order crap, is to get a microchip to cull the half the population of the planet, or most of the population, and who's left to microchip every one of them with an implantable chip, where all your details are on that chip, your financial details, your medical history, your educational history, criminal history, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Every little detail.
Every detail about you was on this chip. And if you decide then you don't like what the government does and you don't want to play ball with what the government wants to do, all they've got to do then is turn off your chip. And how are you supposed to eat? It's like the Hunger Games. Do you know what I mean? And this, I see this ad as a stepping stone towards that end goal.
Yeah.
And am I the only one that doesn't see how sinister this
But
is?
you just have to look at the way the ad is built as well. You know, it's so innocent.
It
Do you know
makes
what
it
I
look
mean?
so innocent.
Yeah.
They play on people's fears of something going missing.
Yeah.
No one wants that bloody child to go missing. No
Exactly.
one.
Yeah. Like, okay, the chip, you know, if there wasn't them and the child had gone missing, they found them, you know, great. But no, we
That's
do
not
not
the
need it. We've got
exactly.
on
I mean,
with
when
our
you
life
think of the kind of
without this
governments like the
ball.
British government, which is run by nothing but paedophiles, they've been exposed. They've all been exposed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They've
No,
been
it's
exposed over the last
coming out,
couple of years.
it's coming out, yeah.
Paedophiles left, right, and centre running this bloody planet.
Psychopaths.
Satanic, psychopathic paedophiles running this planet. Do you want to see bloody think they give a toss? Whether your child goes missing or whether you have a tracking chip to find them or not.
No.
It's not about finding your kids or finding your teddy bear. This is about
control.
getting a chip into the human body to control human beings once and for all. Now you might say, you're just a conspiracy theorist and that's just bullshit. Check out Agenda 21. Check out that Aaron Russo documentary that he made with Alex Jones. Have a look and make your own mind up.
Even there's another video there popped up on YouTube, Richmond Sausages and Chip, selling FRID enslavement to families. Now, you know, you watch that chip out of that clip and it's innocent. Just wait for the next one to come up and it's a whole flip side.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very dangerous thing.
Very sinister.
Anyway, folks, we have come up to the end of the World You Don't Know. I do need to get another. Will you type in? I think I had it there. Yeah, I had it there. And we have come to the end of the World You Don't Know, folks. And unfortunately, as you've most likely heard, the great, wonderful, absolutely genius David Bowie passed away today.
Yeah.
Great sadness, big loss to the music industry, big loss to everybody. I grew up listening to David Bowie, big fan of David Bowie. Like all his stuff, he's brilliant. The guy was a genius. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with David Bowie, folks. This has been The World You Don't Know. And as we like to say in this show every week, the world is full of great people. And if you can't find one,
be one.
Until next week, folks, this has been The World You Don't Know. Myself, Mick O'Connell and Robbie.
Good
and
night.
I shall talk to you all very soon. Hopefully next week, folks, I'll have Billy McGuire on, the President of the IRB. Ireland's Independence Day is coming up on the 21st of this month. In case you didn't know, go to billymcguire.com for more information about that. And until next week, folks, this has been The World You Don't Know.
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year to you all. Talk to you all soon.